Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
The Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. Healing from perfectionism and self-injury ideation, learning to stop identifying with pain, is the topic that Desiree Young is discussing in episode 76.
I was thinking about, my own life story, and I decided I'm going to write a memoir. So I wrote my first memoir, and that one is called Winning the Silent Battle, Exposing 8 Lies Hindering Your Mental Health. And that talks about a lot more about my mental health journey and also about how my faith helped bring me through it. It wasn't the only thing that brought me through it, but it did help. And fast forward several months later, and a friend of mine posted on Facebook, she's like, "Hey, I'm working on a collection of stories. It's called Broken Chapters. And if anyone would like to join me in this, come on board. I'm looking for 20 other authors to work with." And I was like, I've got one of those. I can participate with that.
The Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Healing Through Love podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Lynch from charlenelynch.com. Healing Through Love is here to help victims and survivors of domestic and family violence find their way back to living a more fulfilling and meaningful life. We interview experts and survivors who share their personal stories and offer advice to those who've experienced abuse no matter where they are on their journey. As well as the Healing Through Love podcast, we hold annual Pamper Days here in Adelaide, South Australia for survivors of domestic and family violence, where local businesses come together and pay it forward to provide their services and resources for a day to give the survivors a much needed day of indulgence. Think day spa on steroids. We are looking for organisations to join our quest because Healing Through Love has gone global, and we're currently assisting 8 beautiful humans around the globe run local Pamper Days for their community to pay it forward. We're very excited, and we're looking for our next cohort. So reach out to us from Healing Through Love if you'd like to be a sponsor or an organiser or even a participant. I'm sure we've got an organisation that's working towards the same goal that's near you. And you can contact us everywhere on Healing Through Love. Every week we have an amazing guest, and this week is no different. We have got the beautiful Desiree Young with us. After seeing her parents through 4 divorces, Desiree is no stranger to pain. She bottled it and she carried it through for so long she became to expect that that's what pain was like, and this is what life was going to be. She struggled with her mental health for years, and she kept everyone at arm's length. Today, she's going to share her faith contributed to her healing and how she was able to move from a place of pain to a place of love. And we're going to dive in deep and talk about her book. But hello, Desiree, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm magnificent. And we're at different times of the day. So here in Adelaide, it's 8:30 in the morning. And for you, it's the end of the day at 5 o'clock. And but it's really great to connect with you today on this special day. It's so great to have you here. So look, dive in deep and just tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get here?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on, especially with it being so early for you. I personally am a night owl. So someone's like, "Hey, can we meet at 8:30?" No.
That's okay. We can share a cup of tea together. Yours is afternoon tea, mine is morning tea, but we can still share a cup of tea. Isn't that great that we've got this global community that we can connect?
Absolutely. So yeah, I want to share a bit about my own personal journey. I know some of you listening, you've struggled with some family and domestic violence. And while I personally don't know what that is like, I do know what it's like to struggle with mental health. I do know what it's like to feel very hopeless in life. And I know what it's like to carry around pain and to even identify with it and to come to think this is all life is going to have for me, which is pretty sad because I'm only in my 30s. So it's sad to be in the early stages of life feeling that way. But life can kick us around sometimes. And something that I want to share with you with my own story. I saw my parents through 4 divorces. The first divorce happened when I was very young. I don't even remember it because I was a toddler. I remember being bounced from house to house, weekdays, weekends, and feeling a bit like a yo-yo going back and forth. I remember seeing both my parents remarry and divorce the people that they remarried and being really confused because the first marriage that I saw fall apart, that was between my dad and stepmom. And from what I could see, they loved each other. So it was kind of blindsided me a little bit for my dad to say, hey, we're getting divorced. Now, granted, I didn't like my stepmom all that much because she didn't like me. She had a vendetta against me for several reasons, some of which I still don't know to this day. And any chance that she got, she would try to humiliate me in some way, shape, or form to make me feel small. And as a kid growing up, like that's really hard to try to deal with and try to make sense of. So at first, when he says, okay, we're going to be getting divorced, well, I was shocked. A part of me was like, oh, good. I don't have to deal with her ever again. This will be great. This will be awesome. But unfortunately, the divorce was really messy. And I found myself really sad and crying a lot because I'm sitting here thinking, like, these were two people that loved each other. These were people that said, hey, till death do us part, we're going to be together forever. And yet, my stepmom at that time, she was just nasty and horrible. And she said some things to the judge to get my dad locked away in jail for a day due to her sharing lies. And thankfully, my dad was able to get out and come home. But seeing her put him through that just really put a black label on love for me because I was like, okay, so love isn't real. It doesn't actually exist, and don't look for it. Don't hope for it because if you do, all you're going to have is pain and people who say they love you but really just want to destroy you. So that was my outlook on love for a very long time. And the other flip side is at my mom's house again, I see my parents and I was like, they're in a loving relationship. They care about each other, might argue here and there, but I didn't see them argue. I assumed that they argued because they came back and told me, hey, we are getting divorced. And that was very hard because you see two people who are building this life together, who are building this home together, and you have your younger siblings that you want to be there for and encourage and uplift, while at the same time you don't know heads or tails what's going on. So trying to navigate that as an older sibling was very challenging and very tricky. And while all this chaos is going on in my home, I found myself struggling a lot with my mental health. I struggled a lot with perfectionism because I started to find my worth in having a job very well done and being absolutely perfect. No mistakes, no mix-ups, anything like that. And so I was very high achieving. I would always strive to get straight A's and usually did get them in school. And when I brought home a report card and it had A's and B's, I felt disappointed. And my parents, very well meaning, they wanted to teach me to strive for excellence in life, which is a good lesson to impart to your kids. But at the same time, there's a fine line between striving for excellence and not like fully celebrating and appreciating the job that is like well done. So if I brought home a B, it's like, okay, it's going to be an A next time, right? If I brought home an A, it's like, okay, it's going to be an A plus next time, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, it's never enough. You have to go above and beyond, above and beyond, above and beyond, no matter what. And for a while, for several years, I found myself caught in this cycle. And that perfectionism led to anxiety, anxiety about what I'm going to do, like with my grades to make sure that they stay up, but also anxiety with like what I wanted to do with my life, because I started becoming a perfectionist. And okay, I have to make sure that whatever it is that I do right after college, it has to be perfect. It has to be great, and it has to, like, I can't screw this up. You got one chance and you have to get it right that one first time.
Desiree,
Which no 22 years.
do you think that that the perfectionism was a seeking for love? Do you think that that's what you were waiting for, approval and love, because you felt that perhaps maybe in this dynamic with the parents, both your father now having two divorces, one to his mother and one to your mother, and then one to his second wife, and then your mother having a second divorce? Do you think that that's what it was you were doing with the perfectionism?
Yeah, part of it was that, because that was where my self-worth was tied. So that is what I wanted. I wanted that job well done. I wanted that, hey, you are good, you are, amazing. That's what I was looking for, and trying to make sure that I was perfect and everything. I did not find it there. um, Learned the hard way that you can't find it there. And yeah, when I was 18 and went off to college, I found myself at a bit of a crossroads, and I realized, it was like, okay, I have some really unhealthy like habits, and I should probably get some help in regards to those, because if I keep going the way that I'm going, I don't know how much longer I am going to, make it or survive. Which at 18 years old, realizing that, I'm still looking back and wondering what made me get to that point of realization where I reached out for help. But I'm also really grateful that I did. Um, in the various family dynamics that were coming into play with my life, I found myself thinking of harming myself, of taking a kitchen knife or razor to my arms. And the thing with that, I wasn't trying to kill myself in any way. I was bottling up so much of the pain that I was experiencing at home, that I was looking to a razor or a knife to be a relief for myself. And some people, when the pain is too much, they will turn to drugs, they'll turn to alcohol or porn, or what is it? For me, it was the self-injury ideation. And actually, now that I think about it, that was what made me realize, it was like, I should probably talk to someone, because thinking of wanting to harm myself is not normal. um, so I was able to find a mentor my freshman year of college, who was absolutely amazing. I was able to share with her some of the struggles that I was having with my home life and with my mental health. And while she herself was not a mental health professional, she was a friend, and she would listen and sometimes um, add feedback where I needed to. And when I say add feedback, I walked around like I was a victim. Like, oh, this all happened to me, and this is what's happening in my life. And she taught me, is like, hey, yes, those things happen, but those things don't have to define who you are. It's a chapter or a few chapters in your life that are not glamorous, but it's not the whole story. It's not the whole picture. And you have the power to say, hey, I want to flip the switch, and I want to choose something else for my life.
Mm.
And at first, when I heard that, I was kind of just like, but but this is what I've known for several years. But what do you mean I can choose something different? What do you mean I can like have something different from what I've seen? Because what I've seen, history tells me that it's just going to repeat itself in my own life. And she really encouraged me to see, no, it doesn't have to repeat itself. Yes, it's going to take a lot of hard work. Yes, it can take a lot of faith, but you can do it. And just like getting to that mindset of, yes, I can want something different, I can choose something different, I can even have something different. That in itself, like, it took several months for me to get there. But when I got there, like, that is something that I hold on to as like a mantra for my life. And I actually discovered a song. I was discovered a song about a year ago that I will call my life theme song. It is called Rewrite Your Story by Kaylee Bishop, and it is so beautiful and so powerful. She in the song lyric, she says, "You can rewrite your story, you can turn pain to glory and make your way out of the dark." And I remind myself that constantly is absolutely amazing. One of the things that, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. It's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful song. And just like from where you are, like your journey started with having that level of awareness that this is not correct thought processes. So it sounds like that's where the journey needs to start, with having a level of awareness. There was the self that was wanting to hurt yourself, and then there was the self that's saying, hang about, this isn't right. So, starting your journey there with that level of awareness. And then your next step was to get help. And although, you still hadn't spoken to a professional at that stage, but you'd reached out to someone else to give you assistance. And, they were able to have a conversation with you. So it sounds like starting the journey with awareness, reaching out to get help. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a professional. It can be someone else who's, a bit further down the journey than you are, so that they can reach back and give you that hand up. And then I love the fact that you had that level of, again, awareness to see that the language and the thought processes that you were having were keeping you in that below the line frequency, that I'm the victim rather than I can be the victor. So I love how you've progressed through all of this. And I love that you've got a theme song. I think everyone should have a theme song. It should be like your coming out song. It should be like the song they play when you're getting on stage to talk. I love that. That's fantastic. I love it. So at one point, which point in all of this did you decide that you were going to write a book?
Writing a book has been a dream of mine, honestly, since I was in high school. Like, I was always building out these like different fantasy worlds in my head, and I was like, okay, one of these days I'm going to write the book. And when I went to college, my major was in psychology, but one of my minors was in creative writing. So it's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to actually write a book. And at that time, I was focused more on the different worlds that I was creating versus my own story. And when I graduated college, me wanting to write kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. Like, I would write a little bit here and there, but it wasn't something that was consistent in my life. And in 2017, I was driving home one day, and I was thinking about, like what I wanted to actually do with my life. And 2017 was about 6 years after I had graduated college. So in that time period, I had a few odd jobs here and there, and was really just trying to figure out what I wanted my life to look like. And as I was driving, I was praying. I was like, God, like what is it that I should be doing? And he gave me the idea to write my first book. My first book was a fiction novel about human trafficking. Um, when I was in school, I did a lot of research papers about human trafficking. It was something that was very much on my heart, very much like something that I wanted to see end. And at the time, I was also volunteering with an anti-trafficking organization. So I was like, okay, this seems like a logical next step. So I started writing, and that writing turned into procrastinating, which turned into 3 years later. Like, the whole world shut down with COVID. Everyone's stuck in their houses. And I was like, well, I have nowhere else to go. I guess I better write. And so I finished writing the rough draft of my first book. And about a year later, I was thinking about my own life story, and I decided I'm going to write a memoir. So I wrote my first memoir, and that one is called Winning the Silent Battle: Exposing 8 Lies Hindering Your Mental Health. And that talks about a lot more about my mental health journey, and also about how my faith helped bring me through it. It wasn't the only thing that brought me through it, but it did help. And fast forward several months later, and a friend of mine posted on Facebook. She's like, hey, I'm working on a collection of stories. It's called Broken Chapters. And if anyone would like to join me in this, come on board. I'm looking for 20 other authors to work with. And I was like, I've got one of those. I can participate with that. And that particular book is when I wrote From Child of Pain to Child of Love. And I start to really talk about the effects of divorce on me as a child and how I learned to navigate and learn to heal from that, and to how I learned to stop expecting pain in my life, but to want and expect joy in my life, want and expect love in my life. And I talk a bit about how I learned about God's love and how learning about God's love helped me heal. And yeah, that's been my journey so far with writing. And I'm still working on a fantasy series, and I'll have the first one of that published hopefully later this year.
I love it. You know, they say everyone's got a book inside of them, but you've got two and there's more to come. I love it. I've got a question about what you chose, the subjects you chose during college, and how they mapped out your healing through your mental health process. So did that shine more of a light on your thought process? Did you self-identify as you were going through that? Like, can you talk a little bit more to that? Because it's fascinating, the number of people that study psychology. I know that in Australia, they've got psychiatrists and psychologists have got like the high, next to dentists, the highest rate of suicide. So like it's more like the more you know, the less you want to live almost. So I'd love to ask a few questions in and around what you studied and how that impacted your growth. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, so talk to me, where were you in your mental health discovery journey when you started studying psychology?
Sure. So when I started studying psychology, I was in the very beginning stages. Um, with the self-injury ideation, I didn't know why I was thinking about harming myself. And my freshman year studies helped me figure out why, because they have, in some of the books, they talk about self-injury and like other mental health issues. And that really gave me a pinpoint. It's like, okay, so these are the trigger points. Now that I know what they are, I need to deal with those. Dang it.
Yeah, okay, I get it. So it was like, you know, obviously, you know, everything happens for a reason in divine timing. And you were aware enough to see that there was, maybe you weren't thinking, you know, you had a little bit of stinking thinking, and that, you know, now you're learning more about it, and it's giving you that opportunity to reflect on what's happening for you in your life and helping you see that life happens for you rather than to you, and helping you progress. So I'm sure it's no accident that you were studying at that time. So my question, I suppose, is, did you find this helpful? Do you think that this is a subject that perhaps maybe we should be studying in primary school and secondary school?
I would say absolutely yes, to both of those. The psychology, it was helpful for me with what I was dealing with my own health. And also like my reason for studying psychology initially was because I noticed that a lot of my friends were coming to me for advice. So I was like, oh, maybe I should be a counselor or psychologist or something. And the semester before I graduated, I realized I didn't want to do that. Find time to realize it after 3.5 years of studying how much money.
I love it.
But
A very similar story. So I became a holistic psychologist, and then I started taking on clients. So you take on clients during the study because that's how you pass. And then that was okay because there were people that I knew. And then as soon as I finished and started taking on, you know, clients from the broader community, I very quickly realized, oh, this is not what I want to do. And after spending so much time, I'm like, I felt like a little bit of a flibbity gibbet, you know, because I'd spent so much time doing that, and now it just didn't serve me. So it's something to be said that perhaps maybe if I'd had a little bit more practice and really realized that that's not what I wanted to do, but I did help my own mental health. So I'm very thankful for it. Yes, and I still see that maybe people aren't far enough on their own journey of their own mental health when they start to study those subjects, and they're not quite living above the line yet, and it can actually drag them down. So I do think it's something that we should be covering off in schools, and even if it's something simple like sociology, and maybe break psychology up and psychiatry, not psychiatry, but break it up into smaller pieces so that we can start studying this, because it is about the human condition. It is about us as humans interacting and us understanding our own brain chemistry and how we respond. And I think if we can help our kids know a little bit more about that. So books like what you're sharing are really great. What age group do you think should be reading the book?
Age group, I would say for Winning the Silent Battle, ages 18 to 35. And then for Broken Chapters, I would say probably ages 25 to 55.
Yeah, that's excellent. They should put them on the front cover.
Right.
Read these books. That would make it so much better for the rest of us, so we know what books to read. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
So your fantasy book is what you're looking at to do next. I love that. And do you think it'll be a series or just a once-off?
It'll be a series. So the very first book is going to be a shorter one. It'll be a novella around 20,000 words, and that's introducing you into the world that I've created. And then the very first like full-on novel that'll be like 50 to 70,000 words, that'll be released in the summer. So the very first book is called Escaping the Tyrant, and it brings you into the world of the Dragon's Well series.
I love it. It's fantastic. And so is this your aspiration to move forward, is to be a full-time author?
Yes.
Excellent. I love it. So I can see you doing book tours and talking to people about what it is that you do. Is that the lifestyle that you're looking to lead moving forward?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Dreaming of it often.
Dreaming of your book launch. And what does that look like? I love it. And, it is, and you mentioned this earlier in the conversation, it's about expectation, is that when we shift and we change our expectation and we expect joy, when we expect to live at a higher frequency, when we expect good things to happen and that we see life is happening for us rather than to us, it just shifts the power, it shifts the dynamic. And literally we become magnets, we become magnetic for joy and love and peace and abundance, even because we've become an attractive frequency. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so good. All right. So on for next is for you is a fantasy series and a book tour globally, we're hoping, so that you come to Australia and we can see you here. So I do want to reach back to talk about your faith and how that helped you move forward. Did you speak to someone in the church, or did you lean into your own faith journey? What happened for you to help you pull you out of this, and how did faith have a hand in that journey?
Yeah. So the answer to both of those questions is with the mentor that I reached out to. She was very strong in her faith, and in talking with her, we did a Bible study together, and that Bible study really helped with realizing God's love for me, and realizing God's love for me helped me love myself more. So first thing that I want to say about learning about God's love, I learned that God's love is not conditional. Like, it's not, oh, hey, if you're good enough, he'll love you. It's like, no, he will love you no matter what. You can be a complete and total mess on the floor and he still loves you. He still wants to wrap his arms around you and tell you how much he adores you. Every single hair on your head, he knows it, all of that. And at first, I had a hard time thinking that God loved me because I didn't love me. So if I don't love me, how is he going to love me? That was the internal struggle that I had. And one of the books that we read, it was a book of the Bible, or is a book of the Bible, called Song of Solomon. And we read it like an allegory for Christ's love for the church. And we did a study by a man named Mike Bickle, a very in-depth study of the book. And when I say in-depth, I mean, we got together for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we were still in chapter 1 of Song of Solomon. Like he's doing line by line study of that. But in Song of Solomon, you start to see the bride and the different stages that she goes through. The stage where at first in the first chapter, she talks about I am dark but lovely, dark because of all the crap that she's been through. But her bride is looking, not her bride, her groom is looking at her and saying, "You are lovely, you are beautiful, you are treasured." And something that really stuck out to me personally, not only that verse, but in the second chapter, 2:14, it says, "O my dove, in the clefts of the rock and the crannies of the cliff, let me see your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely." And for me, like, I was often told to sit down and shut up. Growing up, I was often told that my voice was not very valuable. So to read through that in the Bible where, God is saying your voice is sweet and he's saying to you like you are lovely, that really was starting to do paradigm shifts for me and was thawing the ice, if you will. And the more that I studied that, the more I was starting to tell myself, like, okay, I can't see myself this way, but God sees me this way. So let me confess what God says about me.
Love
And
it.
I continue to do that.
That's so
The
fantastic. So this entire journey of going through and doing the Bible study, this came at a time when you had a level of awakening. You'd already reached out to get assistance, and now you're continuing your faith journey and helping you really come out of the quagmire and have a look at your life from a different perspective. That's so, so powerful. I love it. Well, we've been chatting for nearly a half an hour, and I cannot believe that. I think that we could chat. This is fabulous, Desiree, but the podcast only goes for 30 minutes. So, Desiree, just in closing, have you got some closing words of wisdom? Anything you'd like to share with our audience?
Yes, I want to leave you with a word of encouragement. And that word is this: pain ends and your story can be rewritten. What you've experienced in your past life, that does not set in stone what your future is going to be. It can change. It'll take work, but it's worth it. And you are worth it.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. That was absolutely beautiful. We're looking forward to following your book series and reading your fantasy series when it becomes available. If you're listening today and you'd like to contribute to Healing Through Love, we'd love to have a chat with you about sponsorship. If you are a practitioner, even a hairdresser or a makeup artist, we'd love to have a conversation with you about being one of the helpers, one of the exhibitors, one of the participants at one of our local Healing Through Love days that are now globally. We're so excited about that. And also to have a further conversation in and around Haven Housing, who is our sponsor, and the good work that they do in helping people organise housing, basically, housing for the homeless. Such a privilege and a pleasure to be here to hold this space, and it's such a privilege to have a conversation with you, Desiree. That's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Desiree.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.